To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace. Hello, I'm Joe Roberts, and this is the Mayfield Friday Time. I've been reading from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. Well, here we are again. I am Joe Roberts, and if I will do what's right on here, I will cut this off. There we go. Well, as you can see, we are without our producer this evening, and so I'm having to operate everything. And I have my sidekick here, my co-host, Brother Bernie Dixon, and this is the Mayfield Friday Time, and we welcome you aboard again this week. I see that Foresight is already on YouTube, and I'm trying to get Facebook on here. So far, I haven't been able to get it to come up yet, so we'll see what happens there. But anyway, we welcome you back again this week. We have quite a few things to discuss, and some very interesting things, especially since this is the last broadcast before our election time.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking about some things here before we went on the air, and so we want to share some of those things with you tonight. I hate to say this, but I'm not going to be able to answer the telephone 615-219-9926 as you see on your screen, nor am I going to be able to answer the Skype. So Jamie has that capability, but I'm not quite to the same level he is yet.
Yeah.
So anyway,
As you can see here, hosted by Joseph Roberts and Bernie Dixon, produced by Jamie Roberts. Oh, that's not happening tonight.
Nope.
So anyway.
So if you're listening, Jamie, you can't do this to us anymore. Just kidding.
Well, we make out pretty good. That doesn't mean I don't have to call him a half a dozen times before we go on air.
We might have to.
Well, since you are with us tonight, brother, give us a little overview of what you're intending for Sunday.
It's going to be interesting. I'm going to deal with a dangerous dilemma. Has to do with politics, and I'm not going to be dealing with so much with politics, but in the area of our pulpits and our people and the pews. As I said before, I don't know if I missed something, but I guess it's becoming a trend where pastors are using books as the main source, and the Bible's kind of, I don't know. I think it's becoming the thing now that the Bible's second place to everything. And I said this, that it's sad on my part that I don't have the study time that I will have in about just a few weeks from now.
You don't have your calculator out there?
What do you want my calculator for?
Well, I was just, you showed me something a while ago where it would look like a countdown clock.
Oh, you're talking about my retirement time. Oh, yeah, I got that on there. But 6 months, 9 days, 13 hours, and 22 minutes where I will be back in the saddle full time as pastor, having the time. And brother, study books are fine, but that's not the main source.
That's true.
And I think that's why our pulpits our pews are in the mess that they are. But anyway, more about that Sunday. So.
Okay. Well, if any of you that are listening or watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you cannot be in your own services Sunday, and we encourage you to do that, then we invite you to turn in here. We do broadcast our worship service live, and then also 5 p.m. Sunday evening, we have the Sunday evening Bible study live, and then on Wednesday, we have our Wednesday Bible study live at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Oh, by the way, and if they are in the area and they would like to come to and I'm going to say this, to come to a scriptural New Testament church, hey, we'd love to have you at 271 Mayfield Drive.
Absolutely.
You can't miss it. You can't miss it.
Absolutely. So let's see. Well, I'm still not able on my little phone to get up the Facebook yet. So if you're watching on Facebook and you type in on the chat, for some reason I'm not able to bring it up yet. And so looks like we'll have to go by that. After that, well, you can bring it up on yours,
I
can
bring
you not?
it up on mine.
All
I
right,
think
we'll let you do
I'm
that.
Because
Technology,
isn't it a wonderful thing?
Yeah, as long as it works right.
Yeah.
But if it don't work right, it can be an aggravation. All right. Well, one of the first things that, okay, what'd you do with my notes here?
Hey, I just laid them right there. You got them.
Yeah, I got them.
That's all I had.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. One of the first things we wanted to talk about that we were discussing here a bit ago, and that is what is planned to happen if Trump wins the election. And guess who's behind it? George Soros. So here's what this article says. It's rather frightening, honestly. If you don't have your trust placed in the Lord,
You got it.
all of this can be so scary.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not so Well, I don't worry about things to
No,
begin
no.
with. There is a fine line between worry and concern,
Exactly.
you know, and the Bible tells us not to be worried about
Exactly.
things, and we need to have our trust in Him. So if you don't have your trust firmly planted in the Lord Jesus Christ, all of these things that are happening now and what we find our world in around the globe, not just in our country,
Yeah.
but around the globe, it can be rather disconcerting and rather frightening, especially on this one. Despite spending nearly $100 million on dark schemes to defeat President Donald Trump, creepy liberal billionaire George Soros has a backup plan to still seize the White House should voters re-elect the president.
Yeah.
Nationwide chaos.
Yes.
That's what they're calling for. Soros' plan calls for using his extensive networks in the national media to claim the election was stolen and that nationwide street riots and lawsuits are necessary to, quote unquote, protect the results and destabilize the country until Trump is blocked from being certified the winner. Excuse me.
By the way, with him with millions, that's nothing to him.
That's true.
Millions is nothing to him. We better wake up. We better wake up. And I know people think this is kind of what we're saying is kind of crazy and whatever, and that's the problem. People think that.
Yep.
We're headed down a rocky road, and
Yes, we
Right.
are. Well, you looked up his net worth a while ago, and how much did you say he was?
Oh,
8
right.
billion?
8 billion, I think's what it was.
Yeah, so 100 million is a drop in a bucket.
That's a
for
drop
him.
in a bucket. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Breitbart reports this is a conservative.
Oh, by the way, before you go any further, and I'll say this: if you don't vote, don't complain.
Absolutely.
I took care of that, but and for all those who are listening, if don't say that your vote doesn't count, because if you don't vote, don't complain.
Absolutely. Here is, now pause on this for just a minute. Let's talk about this. Many people, and I've thought this in the past too. I have to admit that I have. Lord forgive me for it. Many people don't think that their vote counts. It's just like you said. But here is the thing. Say, well, the popular vote doesn't count. Well, it does count.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, maybe a popular vote does not get a certain individual or any individual necessarily into office.
Yeah.
It's the Electoral College
Yes.
that
Yes.
The majority of those is what
Exactly.
makes the individual win the election. But here's the thing about it. It takes a majority of that one individual, the majority of votes in a state,
Yes. Yes.
in order to get those electoral votes.
Absolutely.
So just as critical as this election is, every vote counts.
Absolutely.
And you know, the Democrats know that, and that's the reason they are trying their best to stuff the ballot box with mail-in ballots
Yep,
and all of this
yep.
kind of thing. I was just reading today, again, that Pennsylvania is still having problems on their mail-in voting. But you know, and that's something else has come up just recently, that people are changing their minds. Those who have voted early,
Oh yeah.
they're changing their minds,
Oh.
and they're trying to change their vote.
Exactly. Oh, you heard about that?
Oh,
where now they're trying to find out
yes.
how can I change my? Well, it's
In
a little bit
Tennessee,
late now.
you can't.
Exactly. Well,
But-
here's what you just said. Let's just use this as a scenario. Let's just say that, and I'm not saying that our vote doesn't count, but let's just say, even if what we put in, we have made a statement saying this is what we want.
Mm-hmm.
We made a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So not to even vote, you're actually, if you don't vote, you're actually saying I approve of what George Soros saying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Right. And that's isn't that the whole crux of the matter?
That's the whole crux of the matter. Yes.
I mean, we as citizens are to exercise that responsibility, and that's what it is—a responsibility.
Exactly. That's our obligation. Absolutely. Yes.
It is.
Yes.
To exercise our right to vote. Now, as I said before, those popular votes go together to get those electoral college votes.
Yes. Exactly.
And so that's where those even one vote needs to be counted. But let's go. You got any more comments on that before I go back to this?
I thought about this, that I always think of it in my mind that my vote may have been the one vote that would have changed the whole gamut.
And that's always a possibility.
That's the whole possibility. Then again, if things don't turn out like they should be turning out, at least I made my voice known.
Right.
That's what matters. So bad things happen when good people say nothing.
And don't take a stand.
Don't take a stand, exactly.
See, here's the thing. When you cast your vote, and Angela and I have already voted too, not because that we were afraid of COVID or anything like this, that I just didn't feel like dealing with any lines.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So, I mean, here I go in my chair and wheel in there and get our vote done, and
you know how long it took me? I went up there, me and my wife went up there. It took us a total, by the time that we got down there and in the line, got our, when you got they check you out.
Right.
It took me about 7 minutes because I knew how I was going to vote right straight across the board. And I'm not afraid to say that I voted Republican all the way. That's and people may hate me for it, but at least I know why.
Yes,
so,
absolutely. Well, it didn't take us very long. In fact, Jamie voted early, and he called. He said, "If you're gonna vote early," he said, "you better get on down there right now. There's hardly anybody there." So that's what we did, and it didn't take very long.
Oh, by the way, I didn't get political, but I wore my jacket, and the lady said, "Thank you for your service." I said, "Yeah, it's people like me that made it possible where we could vote." So
that's true. That is true. Well, I finally got.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we got it up here, so I'll be able to see the comments and.
They may not like. We may see some comments up here. So anyway, it is what it is.
All right,
they're coming in.
Okay. All right.
What is this?
All right, Forsyth, I got you. In Florida, you can change your vote. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. We know who that is. He uses a pseudonym, but we know who he is, and you do too, if I told you.
What about my face? He said something.
Well, no,
they like my face.
Ago, he said that was the logo was over your face.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought he liked my face.
You.
I thought he liked my face.
Well, he didn't say that now.
I know.
He didn't say that
Maybe
at
I got
all.
my mask on. Who knows?
Well, they talk about unmasking, know, in Washington. Well, I unmasked you, brother, so everybody can see you.
I just put the camera in the stress test. How about that?
Well, Forsyth says in Florida you can change your vote. Now, that's true.
Well, good.
It's one of several states where you can change your vote, and I think it is Pennsylvania. You can change it 3 times.
Oh, really?
Yes. But only if you voted mail-in Florida.
Oh, okay.
So
So wait a minute. If you mail a vote in, you're getting a vote for both sides, aren't you?
Well, no, your original vote's not supposed to count anymore.
If people listen, I got a little jocularity going there. So. Well, if you mail in, can you go up there and vote twice?
You have to go in. My understanding is you have to go in
Put 2
person.
votes in.
But they nullify your first vote. Oh, smart aleck
I
over
know. I know.
But seriously, people are, after the last debate
Yeah.
and all of these things that are coming out about Hunter Biden,
Oh.
and even Joe himself is tied up in it.
Oh yeah.
People are beginning to wake up, but unfortunately for many, it's too late.
Exactly.
But
I would say don't vote simply because you're one party or the other. Get the facts. Find out what's going on.
Right.
I mean, really, do your own research. Don't listen to the media. Do your own research.
you can't trust the media anyway.
No.
All right, back to this on George Soros. More than Breitbart, this is a conservative group publication. Breitbart reports more than 80 advocacy groups and grassroots organizations have joined in a broad coalition calling itself, quote unquote, protect the results, and claiming that, quote, we cannot ignore the threat that Trump poses to our democracy and a peaceful transition of power, unquote. I just have to shake my head at the stupidity of some people. I was reading something the other day, and it said that I can't remember exactly how it was worded now, but something about the Democratic lunacy.
Okay.
Or something like that. It's worse than we ever thought it would be. Well, anyway.
It's like the Frankenstein monster, and they've created. Now they can't stop it.
No, yeah. It's like a snowball rolling downhill.
You got it.
It'll
You
get out
got
of
it.
control soon. All right, the coalition is a joint project of Indivisible, Stand Up America, Project of Indivisible, that's one group, and Stand Up America, that's the other group. These are 2 left-wing groups founded in response to President Trump's 2016 election, and whose goals are, quote, to organize and resist Trump's dangerous agenda, unquote, and, quote, prepare for a potential post-election crisis, unquote.
I keep hearing them say his dangerous agenda, but they've never said what that
They
agenda
never
is.
explain
They-
what a dangerous agenda is. They use all of these terrifying terms, but they never show anything behind it to justify using those terms. So beats me. All right, seeking to protect election results by use of its millions of members, the coalition calls to, quote, take coordinated action and prepare for a potential post-election crisis. In 2016, it was to defeat Trump and his enablers. I guess that's what we're called, his enablers.
But you know, this problem didn't start just with Trump. It goes back.
It does go back. Yes, sir. It absolutely does. Both groups are funded by Soros through one of his deep-pocketed hit squads, Democracy Alliance. Soros' Democracy Alliance helped coordinate a series of 2017 protests at public events held by Republican members of Congress. Many of the quote-unquote protests degenerated into violence as Republicans were punched, assaulted, knocked unconscious, and even run off the road and threatened with guns. In addition to already declaring Biden the winner and saying any Trump victory is automatically stolen, the groups behind the riot plan are employing the same rhetoric used during the 2017 town hall assaults and 2020 riot sprees. Now, Soros groups are promising even more unhinged resistance, quote unquote, should Trump win. And Breitbart reports, if Trump wants to ignore the will of the people and fight over election results, it's a fight he'll get, said Nalina Stamp, Director of Strategy and Partnerships at the Working Families Party. That sounds to me like a communist outfit.
And the will of the people that she's talking about is not the American people, it is the people in a particular party.
That is correct. Well, Forsyth says the military and law enforcement are both with the president. Yes, there's I think it came out 3 days ago. There was a poll done of active duty military, and the majority are behind Trump. And also the majority of vets are behind Trump. So, yeah, I guess both could be called on if necessary. Before we move on to anything else, you got anything you want to add here?
Not right now.
Okay.
It'll come out.
It certainly will.
It'll come out.
Well, let's see here. If I had, excuse me. Here's another article that sort of goes along with there. This is from Prophecy News Watch, entitled "Preparing for the National Meltdown, No Matter Who Wins." And unfortunately, I'm afraid that's the way it's going to be, regardless of who is voted into office. Michael Snyder is the author of this. Right now, he says, we are experiencing the calm before the storm. Many Biden supporters believe that a Trump victory would literally be the worst thing that could happen to our country. But at the moment, most of them are quite confident that Biden will win. Likewise, many Trump supporters are absolutely convinced that we will plunge into a horrifying socialist abyss if Biden wins. But for now, most of them are convinced that the polls are wrong and that Trump will pull out another victory in November, like he did in 2016. I don't put much stock in those polls either.
No.
So, with just a short time left until Election Day, most Americans that care about politics are pacified because they believe that a positive outcome is right around the corner. But soon that will change, and tens of millions of Americans will simultaneously melt down emotionally right in front of our eyes. I'm afraid that's going to go regardless of which way it goes.
Yeah.
Michael Snyder says, I think that just about everyone realizes that this national temper tantrum is coming.
Yeah.
It's just that most of those that deeply care about politics assume that it will happen to the other side. At this point, even Facebook is preparing for the worst. In fact, they're getting ready to implement emergency measures, quote unquote, that are usually reserved for the most at-risk countries. You know, I think I've made this statement before, but we are becoming politically and socially, we're not any better than many of the third world countries.
Yes.
I think I said before, I've lived through elections in a foreign country, and it ain't pretty.
No, no. I was reading something. Let's see.
Oh, you can read?
Yeah, I can read. Hey, it said this, and I was reading. Keep on going till I find it, brother. Let's see. He said this, just what you just said. The way he said, and this is Dinesh said this. He said, sometimes nations are obliterated by domestic implosion. The Romans were not destroyed merely by barbarian invasion from the north. What made Rome vulnerable was its internal riot caused by the despotism, DEPOTISM.
Despotism.
Yeah.
That means political officials putting their family or their close friends into positions of power.
They're what we're seeing in America.
Yes.
That type of thing.
Yes.
Decadence and debauchery. He said the Ottomans too became the sick man of Europe, weakened by internal economic collapse and a decay ruling class long before the empire itself was decapitated during World War I. In Europe, the fascists and the communists sought to forcibly uproot their ancestral cultures in order to create a new societies and, in their views, new types of human beings.
Yes.
We're seeing it coming.
It's already happening.
Yep.
I was reading something the other day. I don't remember who wrote it now, but it was drawing a timeline based on historical facts about the downfall of nations. And the United States has slipped way down that timeline.
Yes, exactly.
Same events happening that brought about the downfall of many nations. Our nation is going down that slippery slope.
Yes, yes.
As the U.S. embraces for election-related unrest next month, Facebook executives are implementing emergency measures reserved for at-risk countries in a countrywide effort to bring down the online temperature. Wall Street Journal reported Sunday that the social media giants plan to limit the spread of virtual content and lower the benchmark for suppressing potentially inflammatory posts using internal tools previously deployed in Sri Lanka and Myanmar. I wonder if those three big tech CEOs being called before Congress, wonder if that's going to change their tune any. I would doubt it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Did you watch any of that?
What, the debate and stuff?
No, the congressional hearings. Well, the Congress, what committee?
Oh, you with the are you talking about the lady with the Senate and whatever? Or
Yes, related with the Senate. There's a Senate committee that
I watched as much as I could. My stomach could stand, and the thing about it is they're claiming that she's going to be biased even before she has a chance.
No, I'm not talking about Judge.
Okay.
Judge Barrett.
Okay.
I'm talking about just the last couple of days. There is a Senate, and I can't remember what Senate committee it is, but there is a Senate committee that has subpoenaed the three tech giants: Facebook,
okay,
Google, and Twitter.
Okay.
Okay. And
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of it. I haven't read really anything more. I've had other things I've had to do.
Yeah.
rather than listen to that. But I'm just wondering how that those three testifying before Congress, before the Senate committee, I wonder if that will bring any changes, but I seriously doubt it.
Yeah.
All right, so Facebook, of course, has already been manipulating our news feeds for a very long time, but that's another topic. Social media colossus only plans to put these restrictions that we talked about, emergency measures, and if there is election-related violence, etc. They only plan to put those restrictions in place in the event of election-related violence, something many others are fearful of and preparing for. However, during a staff meeting, CEO Mike Zuckerberg said a decisive victory from someone could be helpful for clarity and for not having violence or civil unrest after the election, which would reduce Facebook's need to step in. Who elected them to be the police?
Well, look at you.
Yeah. See, I can multitask.
Oh, you can. You know what we're hearing from the media. I just read this. He said, knowing what isn't true. And this has to do with what we're hearing. They're saying about Trump, but Dinesh said, knowing what isn't true. This progressive narrative is so entrenched, so deeply lodged in our brains, so familiar that it seems almost heresy to ask, is it true? What if it's not? What if the widely taught and widely accepted truth is a lie? If so, we would not be talking about one lie, but a series of lies, lies upon lies, all woven together into a grand narrative of falsehood and deception. Could this be the case? Can it be that what Americans know to be true is not? And even the educated Americans have been conned about their own country's history and turned into suckers.
Yep.
And it goes with what we're hearing about politics, what's being pushed out about Trump trying to destroy America and all this, and people believe it.
I know. So many are, it seems like that they are incapable of thinking for themselves. You know.
I could say something. I'm not going to. So,
Forsyth says, no, the CEOs did a lot of lying. I'm not surprised at that. I did see one headline where the Twitter CEO was caught lying. So that doesn't surprise us any. It seems like lying is the thing to do these days.
oh yeah. I think there was something with. Well, I'm not going to go there. Okay. I'm not going. I'm not going to walk where angels fear to trod. Okay.
Oh, you're not? Not
No.
tonight, huh? You do enough of that on Sunday.
Yes.
Oh, here is another. All right. Forsyth says they are saying they are fact-checking with third-party checkers, but don't identify who those people are. Well, with Facebook, it's been they've been exposed to. It's been exposed who those fact checkers are, and some of them have some pretty deep ties to the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
One of them, I think, was a party activist. But anyway, yeah, and so, their facts are nothing, no facts.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Well, this next article that I want us to pay some attention to is the future, the coming years, talking about the generations that are growing up now. There is a generation right now that will be able to vote in the next election.
Yeah.
Okay? And then there is an even younger generation coming up behind them. All right, for the last decade or so, those warning of civilization collapse have been accused of being alarmist. There was a fellow that wrote a book by the Live Not by Lies, a Manual for Christian Dissidents. And it noted that many still believe that a quote-unquote silent majority of Americans are opposed to the radicalism of the left, that eventually progressives will go too far and that the pendulum will swing back. But now there is a problem there. Many of these young people that are coming up, they're not being taught right.
No.
So there's a case made by people, he says, far more educated and intelligent than myself, and that's for us too. He said, and I hope they're right, that the silent majority will eventually react, and the progressives will go too far, and the pendulum will come back. But he said, I'd like to share a few reasons that I think more likely that this fellow Dreher is right. This is the Rod Dreher book that he wrote, Live Not by Lies, a Manual for Christian Dissidents. And Western civilization, not just the United States, is on the brink of a long and dark post-Christian moment.
Yeah. When you said that the generation that's coming up have not been taught right, that goes from the pulpits too.
That's true.
If they have no biblical, I tell you, it's a lot different than it was when I was even in seminary.
Yes. Now here's some of you may get upset at this, but this is the truth that I'm about to give to you. It's true that most people are still not on board with the radicalism of the transgender movement, for example. But we need to remember that the public education system has been completely colonized by the LGBT movement, and children who spend 13 years in the state school will emerge transformed. If you are a Christian, and I would use that term rather loosely, and send your child to a public school, expect him to lose his views. If public school doesn't do the trick, college or university might. Essentially, a radical movement has virtually unsupervised access to the majority of the nation's children for the first formative years of their lives.
Yep.
As Abigail Schreier noted in her recent book, Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters, it is changing the views of the population overnight.
Yeah.
Progressives play the long game. In 10 years, most of these kids will be voting.
Yeah, exactly.
Just this month, Politico published an essay explaining how Generation Z, I don't know where they come up with all these things, those born after 1996, will change America's political landscape. This generation is thus far staunchly progressive on a range of issues, but where the future of religious liberty is in doubt, is data that indicates roughly 1 in 4, get this, identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or gender queer.
Mm-hmm. You forgot gender fluid.
Yeah,
I'm serious. That's another one.
it is. That number is mind-bogglingly high, considering the fact that a few years ago, less than 3% of the population identified as LGBT. To put it bluntly, these stats are hard to believe. But as the Daily Mail noted last year, many teens want to identify as anything but straight.
Mm-hmm.
As rates of trans kids skyrocket, a social contagion, as Dr. Lisa Littman noted, many students are afraid that they are, quote, dumb and boring, unquote, if they do not identify as something other than heterosexual. Additionally, Politico noted that a third of Gen Zers say they know someone who uses gender-neutral pronouns to refer to themselves, and nearly 6 in 10 say forms of online profiles should allow for more options excuse me, than man or woman, according to the Pew Research Center. According to the Politico Morning Consult poll, 49% of voting age Generation Z respondents identified as either agnostic or atheist. The consequences? Politico noted that, quote, Republicans' idea of religious liberty, particularly as it relates to discrimination against LGBTQ people, does not at all resonate with younger Americans. And I don't agree that they're being discriminated against.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
They think they are.
No, they're not. No, they're not. In fact, they're being protected.
Yes, they are.
Even Bibles are beginning to change their wording to fit.
Yeah. In other words, young Americans increasingly view religious freedom as overt bigotry and thus no longer see it as a valid concept. Public educators, university instructors, the media, and Democrats have all been singing this for some time, and it's paying off. Forsyth says agnostic is a Greek word. The same word in Latin is ignoramus.
That's kind of saying stupid on purpose, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think didn't Paul say if a man want to be ignorant, let him be ignorant? I think he said that, yeah.
Maybe he did.
I think so.
Maybe he did.
That's fine.
Okay, let's see here. Where did I get to?
Ain't no telling.
Yeah, that's right. There are some other worrisome signs of tectonic shifts as well, such as the nuns, those who identify with no religious tradition before. Mary Eberstadt frequently refers to religious illiteracy, a population of people who no longer even know what the Bible teaches or the basic concepts of Christianity. Well, keep in mind that only 11% of Americans have actually read the entire Bible, which means 89% have not.
And now the Pope has said,
Yes. You saw that too.
oh yeah,
Why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers?
that it came across that the Pope has made it now his position that that is acceptable, basically,
What is acceptable?
the homosexuality.
Oh, yes, yes. I knew, but I was trying to get you to say it. So,
Okay.
many people don't get to read some of those things. I am inundated with information like this.
Yeah.
In order to do our program on Friday nights, I have to pick and choose actually, to sift through
Exactly.
what would be good. I tell you, brother, it's almost like on Monday morning when you go into your study and you sit down and you start thinking about preparing for the coming services.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you pray for the Holy Spirit to guide you and to lead you to what He would have you to teach or to preach. And you may go through a dozen different subjects before you finally feel that this is what the Lord would have for you to do.
Yes.
That's about the way this is sometimes. Let me give you some other statistics here that are very sobering. Self-professed Christians are buckling on key issues, putting even more pressure on traditionalist Christians, that is, those who hold orthodox positions on matters of life and sexuality, to conform. A recent study found that 40% of Christians in the U.S. claimed that the Bible is ambiguous on abortion, for example. Another 34% of self-identified Christians claim that marriage cannot be defined as between one man and one woman, and another 34% stated that abortion is morally acceptable, quote, if it spares the mother from financial or emotional discomfort or hardship, unquote. Yeah. In Sweden, 93% of the religiously affiliated believe homosexuality is acceptable. In Catholic Italy, 81%. In Canada, 80%. In the Netherlands, 86%. And the United States, a full 66%.
Yes, yes.
Approval for homosexuality has gone up by 10 points in the U.S. between 2013 and 2019. In short, polls indicating high rates of self-identification with religion do not necessarily indicate good news for social conservatives or religious liberty.
Here's that article. Pope Francis has called for the legislation to protect same-sex couples, according to comments in a new documentary that marked a break from the Catholic doctrine. Homosexuals have a right to be part of the family. And the list goes on.
And the list goes on. I tell you, it's not just the United States, folks. This is a global thing.
I guess what it come down to is there was years ago things that pastors would stand up against when their children would be involved in it. Now it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just You know, things that we used to stand up against and pastors stand up against now because their children would be involved, whatever it may come, things we said, then they buckle, like you said, buckle in it. And so it's
Yeah. Makes it a loss for words, doesn't
it
it?
makes it very much a loss of
Sorry
word.
about that moment of dead air there, but
But that's what it was. What do you know?
yeah. Yeah. Forsyth says, I bet these are the same 89% who haven't read the Bible all the way through. Probably so. Or read it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
If they don't read it, they don't study it. Most of them, they'll just read it, but they won't study it.
Superficially read it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, you know what? We're almost out of time here again.
But we covered a lot of territory, brother.
We've covered a lot of territory. Oh, I still got a bunch here, but
We'll save it for next time.
well, I try not to put it very far out. The Liberty Council has won a victory out in Colorado. There is a judge that was appointed by President Trump. He ruled against the state of Colorado and said that if Colorado is going to make exceptions with schools and other places like that where people gather and exclude churches from being part of the exclusion, then they cannot do that. They cannot do that. So it is a victory so far. Of course, it's being appealed as we would expect, but yeah. I like the way that Matt Staver put this. He said, we are building precedent like building a house, one brick at a time. It's nice to see this stellar ruling citing some of the court precedent our church cases have set this year. What this judge did, he used the victory that Liberty Council had in Kentucky, in Marysville, I think it was, and causing the Kentucky governor to have to back down and change his tune.
Yeah. I can't figure out something. Why is it okay not to wear a mask on the football field? But you got to have a mask going to church.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like old Lurch. I want to go.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot to pray for, brother.
Yeah.
And, you know, keep on keeping on. God's people need to just hang in there.
Yeah.
Keep on serving Him to the best of your ability. And do everything that you can
Yeah.
in the Lord's work. And you have stated several times, only what is done for Christ will last.
Absolutely. One life will soon be passed.
That is
And
correct.
only what's done for Christ will last. And by the way, for our listeners, get out and vote. Please get out and vote. If you don't complain. Don't
Yes.
complain.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Lead us in prayer, brother.
Father, it has been good to be here tonight, and we give you praise in all things. And as we come together with this information, help us be mindful that that days are coming where, and we do right now, we do need you. Forgive us our sins and shortcomings. We ask in Christ, Lord and Savior. Amen.
Well, we come to the end of another broadcast. We appreciate you being with us, those of you on Facebook and on YouTube. and trust that you will come back and be with us again next week as we have our Mayfield Friday time. Good night. I'm Joe Roberts.
I'm Bernie Dixon.
And God bless.